everyone, welcome back to Newfound Happy Hour. If you're new here, you may be here because we recently had a segment on NTV News for Speed Dating NL. But my name is Sarah, and this is a podcast where we talk about experiences and my take as a millennial woman from Newfoundland. We also always end with giving advice, and so I definitely recommend checking out all the other episodes. There's well over 30 episodes now. Been doing this for a couple years just for fun, so you can definitely check those out if you haven't already. I do most episodes recently in video on Spotify, but for this episode, it is just going to be audio. I tried to film a video, and there was something going on with the lighting, and I really hated the way I look. It was just one of those days. But thankfully, I'm recording this now on Tuesday. Yesterday evening on NTV News, there was a segment about speed dating NL, which is basically a speed dating event presented by this podcast, and I'm hosting it. I was super nervous filming that segment yesterday. I don't think it shows in the video. Everyone's saying it doesn't, at least. But I'm happy with the way that turned out. For some reason, I went to go film a video for this episode after, and yeah, was just not feeling it. So it's only going to be audio today. But as I'm going to release this on Friday, tomorrow is International Women's Day. So I wanted to do an episode just on that. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. I do just want to talk more about speed dating. Obviously, I didn't have that much time on the news to fully go over how everything goes. So if you are listening to this and you're interested in speed dating, I kind of just want to go through the schedule of how it goes. So most events start at 7:30. I think that's a good time to start. So I think we're going to keep doing that. Anyone can arrive between 7:15 and 7:30 just to check in and get your assigned table. And then I explained to everyone how it works there, but everyone has a sheet and you will either be assigned your dates in order by their names, or you'll just be assigned tables, or it may just be where one person at each table moves to the left each time. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. But essentially every 5 minutes you change tables. Sometimes there might be a break in between, and we usually draw a gift card halfway through for the restaurant or bar that we are hosting at for that event. And then once all the dates are completed, you hand in your sheet, and next to everyone that you spoke to, you'll clearly say yes or no if you want to match or not. If two people say yes, that they want to match with each other, then the next day we provide the contact information for each other, whether that be email, phone number, whatnot. So then it's up to you to contact that person or to contact each other if you want to arrange a more official date. But yeah, so far it's been really good. I know some people are a little bit worried. There's kind of it's going to be like what you see in movies where some people are like really desperate and awkward, and it's really not like that at all. I feel like most people are really similar to each other and they all seem to relate to each other. It seems like for the most part, it's just working adults who have good friend groups and families and everything, but they just don't have a partner, or they found it hard to meet someone to date. So I think there's a lot of potential for these events. The only thing is that normally men tend to sign up later if they sign up at all. So I welcome any feedback for men of all ages, because it's the same of all ages. Women seem really eager to buy a ticket and ask questions and want to come to more events. I feel like the men, after they've been to an event, they're like, oh, I'm happy I did that. That was cool. That's all the feedback I've gotten so far, at least. And yeah, it would be really great if somehow we could get more men to sign up, because there's a lot of women who are very interested in meeting more men. So encourage your friends and family. That would be lovely. And you can check out the social media pages as well. So you can buy tickets on eventbrite.ca if you just search Speed Dating NL or Newfound Happy Hour podcast. You'll find it with that as well. But you can also find it on Facebook and Instagram at Speed Dating NL. So when this episode airs, Saturday is going to be International Women's Day. I did do an episode before on this with my coworker, Melanie. She works in our People and Culture department, or HR department. So she was talking about equity in the workplace. I think that was the theme for that year, equity and equality in the workplace. So that's a really good episode too, if you want to check that out. It was also pretty cool because she was a new mom at the time. So she was talking about just her experience with that. thankfully, we both work at a company that values having an equal number of men to women, especially in the tech industry. That's not always the norm. And LGBTQ rights and parental leave, things like that are important to them. So, super proud to work for a company like that. And we're talking about all of that on that episode. So, you can go back and find that. But the reason that we still need International Women's Day and feminism, which just means that you think that women should have equal opportunities as men, is because even with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the workplace and in organizations, we still get belittled in those environments. And as someone who has many professional working women friends, and like I am one myself, I can tell you everyone has multiple stories of when they were treated unfairly relating to how they're a woman. And if you think I'm exaggerating or like what I'm saying is just not true, please go ask the women in your life if there was ever a time something like that occurred to them, and you will be surprised by the answers. I think this is just common knowledge for me and my friends because I have so many women friends, and it's clear conversations like this do not always happen with men the same way they do with us. And like I have real examples of this. I was kind of chatting with some friends and just kind of reminiscing on things or like experiences that they've had. Like being told you're only getting ahead at work because someone higher up likes you when you have a low record of mistakes and work more hours than anyone else. Like professional friends who are in HR, law, accounting, who are constantly called things like little lady or little girl in meetings or in court and receiving comments about how they look. I don't know, but I think if anyone did that to a man in the same situation, I don't think they would like it. You would want to be judged based on your abilities and qualifications and character. But instead, we often get comments asking like if we know basic terms relating to the work we do, which obviously we do. And when I was working in insurance, my boss, my manager was a woman. Customers always used to ask to speak to the man in charge or have your manager call me when he is back. My own personal favorite is when I was working at Spring. I was assistant manager. I was acting manager at one point. I had people who couldn't possibly believe that I was the only one in charge and would ask who my bosses were, and same thing, like who is the man in charge, like who is he. But my boss was a woman and her boss was a woman. So anyway, it never really worked out great, but like people were often shocked by that. And that was only, my time perception is terrible, but that was only like 5 or 10 years ago. And so the biggest thing I want to get across today is like clearly women are having these conversations and like we're the ones experiencing it, so we know. But I think it would be really amazing if we could all encourage more men to speak up on things like this and speak out against it. On International Women's Day or whenever there's anything about women's rights or anything like that, you rarely see men post things or share things or even have conversations with their friends on the topics. And like, I know it's not all men. I have some great guy friends who, you know, will have conversations like this, but like overall, I feel like a lot of men have never really thought about women's rights or how certain things in politics can affect us, or like, I don't really know. I don't know. I would love to hear about like experiences at work. Like when you do hear someone saying something to a woman, like a comment like that, like, do you say something? I think there is a big issue with people not calling each other out on their bad behavior and on their bullshit, to be quite frank. Like it should concern you how women are treated because like I'll put it in a lens that's selfish. That's your wife or your daughter or your mother. Like I don't know how to tell you that you should care about other people, but like we're seeing so much of it now with politics where like someone actually said to me recently that people are tired of being told that they should care about other people that they don't know or could be bad. And I think that is a terrible way to think about the world. Like I couldn't believe that someone actually said that to me. But anyway, that's how a lot of people are feeling. And even like quote unquote good guys or, you know, people who share the same beliefs, they've never actually thought about like how it affects them. And like you're seeing so much online, I'm seeing so much online, and hearing from people like, oh, I never really thought about it. because it doesn't affect me. And I just think that's a terrible way to go through life. I think it's a extremely privileged way to go through life. So yeah, I think the one thing that I just really wanted to get across today is like, I hope we can all encourage the men in our lives to join us in sharing statistics and facts and calling out bad behavior when we see it. Because how many friend groups of guys do you know where like one has sexually assaulted someone, one is just like an asshole to women or makes terrible jokes, and like the guys never correct that behavior. They just kind of laugh and they just kind of say like, oh yeah, he's this and that, whatever, but we're still friends with him. I think that's very problematic. And I think that why would anyone stop treating women unfairly when there's no repercussions? So that is what I'll leave you with on that today. I definitely don't want to be negative. I think that's like a positive thing that we can change how that goes. But, it's not also just men. Like women do it too. Women often try to put each other down. And I often forget that there are women like this because I have surrounded myself with the most positive, supportive, like uplifting circle of women in my life. And I hear about other women and like their behavior. And I'm like, oh, totally forgot that it's like that for some friend groups and for some women out there, that they, feel that sense to like compete with other women. I've just never understood that. Nothing in my life has ever been better by putting another woman down. It has only been better by making friends with as many women as I can and having them in my corner. So I'm happy that I learned that a long time ago. I was looking into this recently, and I do want to do an episode on politics just with all the changes that are happening in this province. But I was looking at some statistics on violence against women and just like women's involvement in politics. And so I wanted to share that because I think it will kind of give you an idea of how much women still aren't involved in decisions that are made for this province and how many women still face barriers when it comes to discrimination of any kind, often leads to physical or sexual abuse. So, fun facts. Women in Newfoundland only got the right to vote in 1925, which is 100 years ago, meaning our great-grandmothers, which is crazy. Women account for 51% of the population in Newfoundland, but as of 2012 have never exceeded 20.8% of its MHAs in the 2003 and 2007 elections. To go a little bit further, out of 127 candidates in the 2021 election, there were 41 women and non-binary candidates in the running, but of elected, it was still under 25% women. A violence against women fact sheet put out by the government around 2006 said that 217,900 women over the age of 15, out of that number, 108,950, which is 1 in 2 people, so 1 in 2 women will experience at least one incident of sexual or physical violence above the age of 15, and only 10% will actually report this. In a 2016 to 2017 report, it was found that 79% of intimate partner violence victims are women in this province. It also showed that between 2019 and 2020, the number of reports of violence like this had increased 53%, which is crazy. Obviously, that's COVID and being stuck at home with partners, I would assume. Also, a report by CBC said that the increase in reports in recent years has been likely due to the Me Too movement encouraging people to speak up. So I think what I'm taking from all that is that we're not involved enough. We don't have an equal voice at the table for decisions in this province, and we are so much more likely to be a victim of violence, especially from intimate partners. I will say it said that 5% of all of those incidents were of same-sex couples. So just to put that in perspective. So I just wanted to share those because that's what I found. And I think I'll just leave you with this advice today. We usually share advice at the end, but like truly ask the women in your life about their experiences. Ask yourself what you're going to do to change that from happening. Men really don't like to be ridiculed. And if your friends are making fun of you for being an ass or don't want to hang out with you because you're rude to women or you make terrible jokes or you harass them at work or downtown or wherever, I just think that like calling people out will really help reduce the number of situations like this. It's the same thing as bullying too. Like when we hear that happening or we see that happening, we really need to speak out against it. We can't just sit by. And I think that's the exact same thing here. A part of why I'm so passionate about finding healthy relationships is because I know that there are situations some people find themselves in, and it starts with micro actions of making a joke or making a comment, or people not telling someone they're being an idiot when they do, and then it just leads to worse and worse situations. I recently watched the Gabby Petito documentary, and her boyfriend starts out as just being a bit controlling, saying, I just miss you when you're gone. But he like steals her wallet so she can't go out. And, making comments like, you're such a slut because you post a certain photo or something. Like, I know that all too well. Like I said, I have a lot of women friends, and the amount of times stuff like that happens is crazy. And it's oftentimes the beginning of a physical or emotionally or sexually abusive relationship. So I think my second piece of advice today would be for women, like when those things happen, those are red flags, and that is not someone you should be with, because the statistics are really not on your side there for how likely it is that that could turn into a worse situation, unfortunately. But I really don't want to be negative. I do want to have like a positive episode about this and like things that we can do to make positive change. I was looking into it, and International Women's Day for this year, the topic is accelerate action. And it says that at the current rate of progress, it will take until 2158, which is roughly 5 generations from now, to reach full gender parity, according from the World Economic Forum. Focusing on the need to accelerate action emphasizes the importance of taking swift and decisive steps to achieve gender equality. It calls for increased momentum and urgency in addressing the systemic barriers and biases that women face, both in personal and professional spheres. And International Women's Day is on Saturday, March 8th this year. So I encourage anyone of any age, regardless of who you are, to encourage everyone in your lives to consider women's rights and what International Women's Day means, and to speak out against any kind of discrimination, or at the very least, like the micro level, like any bad comments you hear at work or in your friend group, call it out, because the more that happens, the more that minds will change, and the more that we won't need a day like this. But unfortunately, on a global scale, we definitely do. There are rights being taken away from women in all other countries. I think we always wonder, what if the worst happened here? And that's really something that women think about. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to think about that and share that with the people in your life. And I think, on a brighter note, this can really create positive change. That's all I really had for today. I just wanted to rant a little bit about that. I often have guests on to talk about their experiences, and I think I'm going to start that back up soon. Last episode I did with Emily was all about being single. It was a Valentine's Day theme episode, just finding love in life outside of romantic relationships and how to be happy when single. So check out that episode and all the other ones before, and stay tuned for the next one. New episodes usually come out every second Friday. But I'm a busy person. I'm a busy woman, so things always don't work out the way I would like them to, because there's not enough hours in a day. But shout out to all the women in my life. I would be nothing without you. I'm so lucky to have like the best women friends and family, and I think about like the way I have grown up and the way that my adulthood is going so far, and my women friends are like the most love I've ever felt in my life. And I think about my niece and how I want her to grow up, and I just really hope that when she's 30 years old, she doesn't have to sit and talk about this bullshit or worry about it. So anyway, happy International Women's Day, and have a great weekend, and stay tuned for next time. You can find me at Newfound Happy Hour on Instagram and Facebook. And like I said, the Speed Dating NL can be found on Instagram and Facebook as well, and you can search for events on eventbrite.ca.